As someone who's been going to Disney World for much of their life, there's just something so cozy about the Magic Kingdom. I've had trips where I've done nothing but that park for the entire time, and still went away happy. Yeah, it might not objectively be the best park, but it's the one that makes me feel that warm, nostalgic feeling that Disney wants to get across.
I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
Fantasyland tends to evoke the most warm and fuzzy feelings for me, specifically the old wing, because that's all that was there when I was a kid. All of those rides and attractions might be simple, but for me, they're just as memorable and exciting as the latest e-tickets are. And the ride that ranks really highly for me? The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Is it the most advanced or memorable Disney ride ever? No, not really. But it doesn't need to be. It's just a fun and cozy dark ride, based on one of Disney's most fun and cozy movies. The simple things speak for themselves, and I think Pooh deserves more credit than it gets. But how did it come to be? Well, grab your nearest Honeypot and get comfy in your neighbor's doorway as we learn about it together. In December of 1925, British author A. Milne published a story in the London Evening Post, based on a stuffed bear owned by his son Christopher Robin. The world was introduced to Winnie the Pooh, and he became a huge sensation. Milne's stories, with illustrations by Ernest H. Shepard, centered on the silly old bear and his friends, including Piglet, Rabbit, and Tigger. For English readers coming off of the horrors of the First World War, they were a welcome relief and comfort. The stories were collected in 4 volumes and have never been out of print, having sold over 20 million copies and being translated into 50 different languages. In 1961, Disney acquired the rights to the Winnie the Pooh stories. They were a favorite of Walt's daughters, and he saw potential for them in the Disney fold. His original idea was for a feature film. However, as American audiences weren't yet familiar with the stories, he instead moved forward with short films to test the waters. The first film, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, was a big hit, and 2 more would follow, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. They too would be big hits. Blustery Day even took home the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. All 3 featurettes would be compiled into a feature film in 1977, as The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. This was the last film ever released that Walt Disney personally worked on. Pooh Bear continued to be a popular character in the Disney family, appearing in subsequent films, cartoon series, puppet shows, books, internet games, whatever the hell this is, and much more. He's had a consistent presence in the parks since 1965, with many meet and greet opportunities and parade appearances. And it wasn't just Pooh. All of his friends from the 100-Acre Wood joined him in the fun. There was one thing missing from his repertoire: his own ride. Plans for a standalone Pooh ride date back to the late 70s. Fantasyland at Disneyland was about to go under a major renovation, changing it from the ground up. The original Ren Fair designs were about to be updated, with new facades and an overall more roomy and streamlined design. A new attraction centered on Pooh was considered, but never came into fruition. Another Pooh attraction was thought up for Toontown in the 90s. According to some sources, it would have been a teacup ride with honeypots, but that never came to be either. Eventually, the opportunity finally showed itself, but it wouldn't be at Disneyland. It would be at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. Fantasyland in that park had remained fairly stagnant since opening day. With the exception of the theater space where PhilharMagic plays today, it hadn't changed a bit. No new attractions in over 20 years. It was time for something new. And while that was going on, Pooh was going through kind of a renaissance at the time. He was absolutely everywhere in the 90s. Lots of new merchandise, new television specials, the works. The Magic Kingdom had an event in the mid-90s where Pooh ran for office in Main Street. And no, I am not making a word of that up. The opportunity was perfect, with concept designer and co-art director Robert Coltrane saying the following: "Imagineering has been wanting to do this for a long time. With Pooh now more popular than ever, the timing couldn't have been better. But to get this new attraction, a sacrifice had to be made. So we had to say goodbye to an opening day attraction, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Based on the Wind in the Willow short from Ichabod and Mr. Toad, this was a unique version of the attraction, distinct from the Disneyland original. It had 2 loading zones and 2 ride tracks, allowing for different ride experiences. However, Wind in the Willows wasn't nearly as marketable as Winnie the Pooh was. So from that standpoint, bringing in a more popular character made sense. And Pooh is still a really popular and marketable character today, so it wasn't like it was a short-sighted move. Plus, the ride was kind of an outlier thematically in terms of the Fantasyland dark rides. You're a reckless driver, you die when your car crashes, you go to hell, and then the ride's over. Disney has never been afraid to scare park goers, but this was dark even by those standards. Snow White might have been technically scarier, but it at least had a happy ending. So, yeah, Mr. Toad stuck out like a sore thumb. Letting go of any attraction is difficult, but if any ride had to go to make room for Pooh, it might as well be this one. Mr. Toad rode off into the sunset for good in 1998. The transformation took about a year to complete. From what I can gather, some of the track layout was repurposed, but most of the scenes were expanded to feature more moments from the film. The show building was also expanded, made to be double the height of what it was previously. And a section of the show building was converted into a gift shop, accessible from the ride's exit. This sold merchandise from both Winnie the Pooh and Snow White, as Snow White's Scary Adventures was right around the corner. I think you can still find Snow White merch there, but now it ties into Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Don't quote me on that. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh opened to the public in June of 1999, just in time for the new millennium.
This is the place where your wishes come true. In 7 lands of fantasy sparkling with a magical array of attractions and live shows. Hitch a ride on a Honeypot at the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
When you saw Tigger, the honey path that you were in started bouncing up and down, and it was kind of like a mini roller coaster.
It was jumping like
Tigger does.
The ride begins as guests enter their honeypot. The walls of the loading zone are decorated with pages from a Winnie the Pooh storybook, a preview of some of the things they'll see when they embark on their journey. When the honeypots leave the station, they enter a storybook. Turn to Chapter 2. It's a very windy day in the 100-acre wood, and all of its denizens are taking to it differently. Pooh's trying to get honey with a balloon, Roo's a kite, the works. The path takes us into Owl's house, which is slowly but surely falling apart from the wind. Not that he notices, he's just rambling on about nothing. I'd explain the next part to you, but why do that when this gentleman did it so succinctly?
And then you've got like one room where you're going through the 100-acre wood and there's Piglet like playing tug-of-war with Roo or some shit, and you're like, this is so nice. And the baby's like, this is so nice. And then you turn the corner and you're in like Tigger's abyss, where it's pitch black and he crawls out of the void and is like, time to bounce, motherfucker. And then...
Anyways, Tigger meets Pooh and tells him about heffalumps and woozles, fiendish creatures who steal honey. Pooh falls asleep and we enter the Heffalump Nightmare Zone, and it's just as much of a psychedelic trip as you'd expect. The scene transitions to a storm. The 100-acre wood is flooded, and Piglet is about to fall down a big waterfall. The rest of the denizens work together to try and save him, save for Pooh. He's a little preoccupied at the moment. But when the rain goes away, everyone gets together to have a party. Pooh opts out, happy to just enjoy some smack rolls of honey. The honeypots reach the unload zone, where guests depart into the Pooh's Thoughtful Spot gift shop. A meet and greet area for Pooh and his friends is located on the opposite side of the ride. Here are some other facts you might not know about the attraction. The events are mostly pulled from Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, the second Winnie the Pooh cartoon. Pooh's predicament with the honey tree is pulled from Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, the first Pooh cartoon. As you go through the scenes, your ride vehicle moves differently. When you're in Tigger's Abyss, the vehicles seem to bounce. During the flood, the vehicles move like they're in the water. It's a little detail that you might not notice, but it helps make the ride more engaging. If you were lucky enough to go to the Magic Kingdom in the early 2000s, you might have gotten a chance to ride it with the film's characters. On low-crowded days, the costume characters got to ride in the honeypots with the guests. Was that just me? Did anyone else get to do this? Leave a comment if you did. The characters were all voiced by their then current voice actors, save for one. Paul Winchell, Tigger's original voice actor, actually came out of retirement to reprise his role. This would be the last time he ever voiced the character. You can find 2 references to the previous attraction in Owl's house. Sitting on the right wall, there's a picture of Owl getting a deed from Mr. Toad, presumably the deed to the show building. This is the guy that sold Toad Hall for a motor car, so I'm not gonna say it's out of character. More hidden away is a picture of Pooh with Mole. Have you ever wondered how they did the effect where Pooh falls asleep and rises from his body? It's another utilization of the Pepper's Ghost effect, accomplished with angled glass. I swear I've had Pepper's Ghost explained to me a million times and I still don't understand how it works. In 2005, a play area was added just outside of the attraction, Pooh's Playful Spot. The area featured honeypots, tree trunks, and a large replica of Pooh's house to explore. Etched into Pooh's house was a small carving of the Nautilus, as it stood in the area where the 20,000 Leagues ride used to be. The play area lasted in the Magic Kingdom for 5 years, until it was closed in 2010. The land it was on is currently home to the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. In 2011, the rides queue got an upgrade. Interactive elements were added to make the wait slightly less boring. Gone were the Ren Fair exteriors. Now it looked more rustic, like it came straight from the 100-acre wood. They have drums, those things where you push the stuff around on the poles, and screens where you wipe away honey to reveal a picture. And Pooh's house was placed right at the ride's entrance, the same one from the former play area. So Pooh's Playful Spot continues to live on. The next version of the attraction would open 1 year later, when Pooh's Honey Hut opened at Tokyo Disneyland. It's the same ride, but much more technologically advanced, with more advanced animatronics and screens. It was also the first Disney attraction to utilize the trackless ride system, which was later implemented in other rides like Mystic Manor and Ratatouille. In 2003, Disneyland would get its own version of the attraction in Critter Country, replacing the Country Bear Jamboree. And both Hong Kong and Shanghai Disneyland received their own versions, which opened with the rest of the park in 2005 and 2016 respectively. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh continues to be a charming and fun ride for the whole family. It captures the spirit of its source material, creating a cozy and inviting atmosphere that anyone can enjoy. 2 decades later, and it hasn't lost an ounce of its charm, and is a must-ride for any Winnie the Pooh fan. So, next time you find yourself in Fantasyland, stop by and say hello to everyone in the 100-acre wood. Who knows? You might be able to make some friends along the way. And that concludes the video. Now I'll pass the question off to you. What do you think of the ride? What's your favorite version of it? Who's your favorite Winnie the Pooh character? Whatever you're thinking, let me know down in the comments. If you'd like to support the show, consider checking me out on my Patreon or Ko-fi page. If not, then be sure to like and subscribe to see more of my stuff. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.